I think the most important thing if you're young, and this was my problem for a long time, is always focus. So I see a lot of young people who just, for lack of a better word, they just kind of jump onto whatever the new trend is. And maybe a lot of times they have trouble sticking with like one business model. Like they run an agency and then they're doing trading and then they have their e-commerce brand. And it's like even extremely successful people who have a ton of experience, a ton of skill, rarely are they able to make like three things work.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome to season 3 of Legacy's Journey, where we talk about creating what outlives you. I'm your host, Cameron Williams, owner of Kinley Consulting, where we focus on strategic financial growth for marketing agencies so that they can live the dream life they deserve and not be a slave to their business. And we do that through CFO services, accounting, and consulting. Now, this is season 3. And in season 3, I kind of know some people now, so I can like ask for favors. Y'all, I need to meet somebody who does fill in the blank. And so I think I put up a post and I'm like, who do y'all know that can do ads? Doesn't matter the platform. I just want to talk to them because I think that's really scaling. That's not the new thing, but it's becoming more popular. And people are like, oh, connect with this person, this person. And some people say you got to connect with young Lucas. And I'm like, all right, bet. So we talked real quick. He's like, let's do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, Lucas is on the pod. What's going on there, man?
Going good. Thanks for having me, Cameron.
All right. So you got to start off. Tell the people who you are, name of the company, what you do, and how you got started.
Cool. So, yeah, my name is Lucas Lee Tyson. I run a marketing company now called LLT Research. We are kind of like a marketing agency, kind of like a marketing partner to online coaches, online course creators. We pretty much handle all of the marketing behind the scenes so they can focus on what they do best. I got started in the digital marketing world actually as a freelancer. So I got started when I was in college, struggling to pay my bills, just was basically slowly sinking into credit card debt. And I happened to look up like online freelance jobs. I stumbled on this platform called Upwork. And just after, spending a few days on the platform, trying to figure out what's something I could learn that I could start, doing on this platform, start freelancing. I saw there were a good amount of people that were doing Facebook ads. So I looked up a few YouTube tutorials for Facebook ads, taught myself a little bit, and then just started sending out proposals on Upwork. And that was kind of how I got started, was just landing little like $50, $100 contracts, setting up Facebook ad campaigns on Upwork.
Dang, for $100?
Yeah. Was very much grinding at that point. That was like sometimes doing like 5-6 hours of work for $100, but it ended up giving me 5-star testimonials in my profile, which platforms like Upwork, that's kind of the name of the game. It's all about just maintaining your reputation. And that was slowly kind of how I built the snowball, started getting people reaching out to me, slowly started being able to charge a little bit more for my time. But it was definitely a grind for like the first year and a half.
Okay, now talk about that because some people are probably going to be like, this guy looks really young. Tell them how many years you've been in the game, just so they can know.
I'm 26 now. I've been trying to figure out ways of making money now since I was in like high school, like since I was like 15 years old. I was always like the computer kid. Like I didn't do after school sports. I would just go home and go on my computer and pretty much just play video games. And it was around when I was like 15, 16 years old. A lot of my friends were getting jobs. They were working at like the local grocery store. And me being a little introverted and honestly just lazy, I was like, well, I want to make money. I want to have money to like buy food, buy more video games, but I don't want to have to go and work a job. So I started looking up like just different random like online business models. And actually the very first dollar I ever made online was with affiliate marketing, was through a really old affiliate marketing platform called AdWork Media, where basically there would be these offers where it's like if you can get people to like submit their email address, they're called email submit offers. You get paid like $1.50 or $2 or something like that. So basically, I just started reading all these articles about like how to get people to like fill out these affiliate marketing offers for you, and that was literally how I got the start. But I've kind of just been trying to figure out ways of making money online. I've always been, I've always had the mindset of like I could for lack of a better word, like I could never work like a 9 to 5. Like I've always been in my head, like I need to be in business for myself. I want to kind of have a lifestyle where I have the control and I have the freedom. Um, so I realized that pretty early on without realizing like that was like an entrepreneurial mindset, basically. Um, but never really started taking it seriously until I was in college. And then I started having real bills to pay, basically.
Hmm. The real bills. Oh, you got to pay rent. Oh, I
Yep.
got a car.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Exactly.
So let's talk about this because I think this is super interesting because there's a lot of people who I guess we can say are very similar in that I'm young. I want to make money, but to your point, it's a process. It's a way to do it the right way because, like you just said, 6 hours of work for $100. That works when you're in college because that will go a long way.
Right.
Versus now,
Yep.
that's not gonna cut it.
Yep.
So, kind of talk to us about how you started to make this transition from just contractor and doing it for whatever to like now having a legit business model, packages, pricing, etc. Like, walk us
Right.
through that.
So over time, just through Upwork, I started to notice who were kind of the easiest clients, honestly, the ones who are willing to pay more and weren't always like hitting me up, always like demanding more work. Honestly, kind of like low maintenance clients. I slowly started to realize at the time when I was starting to do this, which was around like 2018, 2019, a lot of them were like e-commerce businesses, which kind of makes sense. Like around that time, Facebook ads were still pretty new and there were a lot of pretty small brands who could get pretty crazy returns just throwing up some pretty simple ads. So a lot of my clients, I would kind of like have to hustle, get my foot in the door, usually work for not great wages, but then slowly over time they realized what I had set up was working for them, it was making them money, and they would be much more willing to pay a retainer or pay a percentage of the ad spend. So that was kind of just how I eventually got, pretty consistent work, was just kind of doing, for lack of a better word, just kind of crappy work up front, establish the relationship with them. And through that, they were more willing to trust me as kind of like an extension of their team, and still wasn't making a ton, but, an average client back then would probably be like $1,000, $2,000 a month. And any marketers listening to this, they know it's like once you've kind of done the initial setup and you kind of know what a client's business is, what the selling points are, there's not that much maintenance. So a given client 1 month might have like 1 hour of work, and then some months it might be 6 to 8 hours. But there were a lot of clients who I would just have to check in, into their account a few minutes every single week. And if everything was going good, then I could just collect the retainer. Um, and everyone was happy. They were making money. I was making money. It's a win-win situation. So I think a big part of it just comes down to having a skill set that is not reliant on your time, which is one of the reasons I love paid advertising compared to like organic social media, or, there's a lot of people who are like doing like AI automation agencies. Those are obviously great and there's a lot of demand for them, but it's a conveyor belt basically. If your client wants something done, you have to do it, you have to fulfill it. Whereas with paid advertising, if a client's making money, it's kind of a black box to them. They don't really know like what's going on behind the scenes. They just know like this money machine is printing money for them. And if it's working, then they don't care if I spend 1 hour, 10 hours, 100 hours on it. So it's a great skill set because it really does not matter how hard you work or how much time you spend. It's truly just based on results, which my entire life I've kind of been like a corner cutter. I've kind of been like a shortcut taker. Like I'm like, if I can get the same result, but I spend a fifth of the time doing it, it's like, who cares how much time I spent doing it? Like, why do you care how many hours this took? And so I've kind of naturally, because that's been my personality, I've kind of fallen into this arena where that is all that matters. Your results are truly the only thing that matters. A business owner does not care how hard you work, how many hours you spend if you're losing the money on their ads. So I think part of it, to answer your original question, was just the skill set, kind of the type of marketing that I do. And then obviously just being able to work with clients who can appreciate that, who are kind of, pretty hands off. They're pretty simple. They all have the same goals as me, which is let's just make money together.
Very great answer. Have a skill set that's not dependent on your time, but on the results.
Yep.
Okay, let's keep going here. Now, he already told y'all he's 26. And to be fair, he has a very successful company. Unless he wants to share the numbers, we're not. But just know, we're not talking about somebody who's making 250 grand a year, which shout out to those people because you got to start somewhere. Shout out to you. But we're talking about somebody who's doing over 7 figures. Now, some people would say they're going to bring your age into this. Oh, you're a young guy. You don't know what you're doing. How can you help me? I've been doing this thing for 10, 15, 20 years.
Right.
Talk to us through two lenses. To the other young agency owner that may be like, man, that's been a real sticking point. And also to that older person that needs your help, but maybe they're a little too prideful. How do you address both of those?
For the younger people, I think the most important thing if you're young, and this was my problem for a long time, is always focus. So I see a lot of young people who just, for lack of a better word, they just kind of jump onto whatever the new trend is. And maybe a lot of times they have trouble sticking with like one business model. Like they run an agency and then they're doing trading and then they have their e-commerce brand. And it's like even extremely successful people who have a ton of experience, a ton of skill, rarely are they able to make like three things work. So focusing on one business model 100%, that's one of the most impactful things. For me, I was kind of forced to do that because I didn't have that much time. When I was going to school, I was working a job and I was trying to do the Upwork freelancing on the side. I didn't have time to be like messing around with a lot of different stuff. I was like, this needs to make money. And if it's not making me money, I can't do it. So that kind of forced me to focus on a business model that was just about making money as soon as humanly possible, which agency work, service work definitely does allow you to do. But even beyond that, I see a lot of people who run businesses, they run agencies, and they're a little scattered in their offerings. Maybe they do digital advertising, maybe they do social media, maybe they do web design. I understand kind of the mindset for it because if you're early on, you're hustling, you're just trying to get those first few clients, you're probably going to take anything that you can get. The problem with that is, number one, you can't really develop a reputation. You can't really develop a client base who kind of knows you for a specific thing, which usually is the way that you kind of increase your how much you can charge people, how much your work is worth. That's one of the biggest points. The second thing is it's just like any other skill. If you're trying to develop 5 different skills, you're not going to get that good at them very quickly. Like if you're trying to get good at basketball, soccer, boxing, and volleyball, it's going to be extremely difficult to compete with a person that's only playing basketball. And that's essentially what digital marketing or any skill set is. If you're specialized on one specific skill set, like I was specialized in paid advertising, I was able to get good at that very, very fast. Like it took me a good length of time, like 12, 18 months before I was able to make like a genuine full-time income from it, starting from scratch. But there's a lot of people that will spend 3 to 5 years kind of doing a broad range of things, and they never are really able to make significant progress because they're not really specializing in one thing. So all that to say, everything that I was mentioning before about like paid advertising, not having a skill that's based on trading time for money, that is true. But I also know people that like make 7 figures in agencies doing crazy things, like literally just like doing graphic design, web design. Like I truly believe if you just pick one skill and you just focus on that, you will eventually have the ability to make an incredible income from it. So for the younger people, my advice would definitely be, don't look at all the shiny objects. Don't look at the easy money, because the easy money is going to come when you have a really strong foundation in something and you're able to build up that snowball of momentum that's kind of, going into place. For older people, the question is like kind of people who have been doing their business for a long time and they feel like, they're trying to get ahead and they're trying to figure out.
Like they're coming to you and you're like, hey, I think we can really help you. Oh, you're younger than me. I've been doing this 20 years, blah, blah,
Right.
blah.
Right.
Yeah, but I also get results. So
Right.
how do you kind of overcome that age objection?
A lot of times, I mean, I think it's all just how it's framed. I mean, I think I just kind of have a baby face. Like I'm gonna probably look like still young, like in my 30s. I think there's the benefit of looking young in this realm of social media, in this realm of digital marketing, because everyone knows things change like incredibly quick. Like even like 6 months ago, the things that were working are not working now. And when you think about all of the just changes that are even happening on a political landscape, like with TikTok potentially getting banned, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all kind of like scrambling to rush and to pivot. With these things in mind, it's like you almost need someone on your team that is like at least plugged into these things like 24/7. Like even for me, like I'm going to sound like old, but it's like I need to have even younger people on my team, like 20, 21, 22, because they're plugged into things. They're on top of trends and the ways that different social media platforms are moving, even beyond what I'm capable of. So if I think about business owners that are, 30s, 40s, 50s, a lot of times that's kind of the way that we frame it is that, a lot of the digital landscape changes so quickly that if you're honestly not working with someone who is a little bit on the younger side, or at least someone who's like really in touch with these sort of things, they could do a bunch of work for you. And then by the time it's ready to go, by the time it's ready to launch, it's already outdated. 3 to 6 months go by and there's nothing that you can really do with it. So that's a mindset I've had. I've definitely lost a few deals, lost a few clients who don't see it that way. And they kind of want someone who kind of portrays the more stereotypical business owner, older guys, suit and a tie, office building, everything like that. But I do think that that mindset is going away just because there have been so many businesses like that where they look all proper and put together, but then the results aren't there or they're just out of business because they're not able to keep up with a lot of the different trends and things that are happening. So I think it's just like any disadvantage that you see. It's really just like how you spin it. And I've always seen that as an advantage. I have the belief that it's like a lot of my clients like working with me because I'm younger and they kind of get the sense that it's like, oh, this is a young guy, techie, super plugged into, all these different trends of social media. This is someone who's genuinely going to be able to help me make more money than maybe the person who has the office, has all the things well put together, but maybe the results just aren't there. That makes sense.
I like it. I like it. Okay, now let's take this a step further. Now, not only are you young, so that plays to your benefit. I love how you better frame that, but I think also so you're 26. I mean, I keep saying this because I've seen 26-year-olds and they're not all doing what you're doing. Let me say it this way. You've grown exponentially in the 5-ish, 6-ish years you've been doing this to go from graduating college. Thanks, mom and dad. I don't really need that now, but I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
In 5 years, you've gone and done something that a lot of people can't do, which is hit that $1 million or higher mark. Do I want to? I want to ask it a certain way. I'm gonna just say it.
Mm-hmm.
What did you have to do to get there? Because I think that's kind of in this industry the gold standard. Why? I don't know, because we've had plenty of people come on here and say, "Man, my business and life was better at 750K versus 2 million."
Right.
But how did you get to that first million? Like, what were some of your daily actions, the connections you had to make, the mental changes you had to make? Like, walk us through what that looked like.
I think one of the biggest things is it's just like anything in life. In order to get to the next level, you're going to have to sacrifice where you're at right now. It's just like if you're on monkey bars on the playground, in order to grab the next one, you have to let go of the previous one. So a lot of people aren't able to grow because they're still either literally holding on to what they currently have or they're not willing to let go of it. So the biggest area where this happens with like client work and agencies and freelance work and things like that is not being willing to say no to smaller projects that will pay you, but they're not paying you what you want. They're going to take you a lot of your time and it's going to prevent you from getting the bigger deals. That is one of the hardest things to do. And I think it requires a lot of self-confidence. It requires a lot of belief that, let's say you're an agency owner, your average deal is, let's say, $5,000. And you've been doing that pretty well. You close like 2 or 3 of those a month. You're making like 10, 15 grand a month. If you truly know deep inside you and you truly want to make 50,000 a month, 100,000 a month, you know that there's no way you can do that just closing 5,000 deals at a time. That would be like 10 or 20 clients a month, which is usually going to be like an operational mess. So it's like usually to get to that next level, you're probably going to have to ascend to a higher level of work where you're charging people a minimum of, let's say, 15,000, 20,000, etc. The only, and it's always the chicken or the egg problem. It's always like, well, when I get that $20,000 deal, I'm going to start saying no to all of this smaller work. But it never works out that way. It's always, you have to be willing to turn down a few of these projects, which is painful in the short term. And it's a really hard thing to do, knowing and believing this higher level, higher opportunity work is going to come. The only way you can open yourself up to those bigger opportunities is by saying no to the smaller opportunities in the short term. And it's a very, very difficult thing to do. Even I think every entrepreneur, every level struggles with it to an extent, is having the belief, if I'm going to go to this next level from 6 to 7 figures, 7 figures to 8, whatever, it's going to be a temporary loss. It is going to be a temporary setback. You have to be willing to do that one step backward to do 3 steps forward. So to answer your original question, a very simple but a very difficult thing to do anytime you want to grow is you have to be willing to say no. You have to say no to things that look good, like it is you making money. It might be a shiny new opportunity with a belief of your bigger vision. And I think that's the other second thing as well. There's a lot of people who will say, like, oh, I want to grow my business, I want to make more money, but they don't really want it that badly. And the reason they don't want it that badly is because the lifestyle they want, everything that the business is giving them, is good enough. Like a lot of people will say, oh, it'd be amazing if I made 50,000 a month rather than 20,000 a month. But with where they're at right now at 20,000 a month, they have everything they want. They have their dream car, their dream house. The schedule for them is pretty flexible. They're in control. Very few entrepreneurs, unless you're like the most ambitious person in the world, are going to want to grow into discomfort, which there's always going to be discomfort anytime you're going to a new level, anytime you're trying to achieve something that you have not achieved before. So it's just like me saying, yeah, it would be amazing if I lost 20 pounds and I just magically had a 6-pack. But the work that's required for me to do that, like me counting all my calories, me actually pushing myself in the gym, I'll be honest with myself, like I'm not willing to do that. And then I have to kind of be honest with myself and say, like, I'm kind of happy with how I look. Like, yeah, if there was a magic pill, I snap my fingers, I have a 6-pack, that would be amazing. But I also have to realize, like, I'm not willing to do those things. So I have to admit, like, I am kind of happy with where I am. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, including myself, like sometimes will genuinely like make themselves depressed just because like they're not honest with themselves. It's like you have to be, there's different seasons of your life and you have to be honest with yourself and say, like, I am kind of happy with where I am now. I could be doing the things that are going to be required for me to grow, but I'm not at a point right now where I prioritize that. So maybe I'm going to do those things in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever. But right now I am genuinely happy with where I'm at. In order for growth to happen, there needs to be like a genuine feeling. Like you wake up, it's the first thing you feel. You go to bed, it's the last thing you think about. There has to be that genuine feeling of, I'm not happy with where I'm at. I could be doing more, and I'm genuinely going to take that action to get there. Just like the person who's like, all right, I genuinely want a 6-pack really badly. I want to be jacked. So I am going to do all of these actions that kind of take it seriously. That is one of the easiest ways to make it easier and less of an emotional decision for you to turn down the smaller opportunities. So a lot of it just comes down to kind of like mindset and just being honest and just saying, like, this is, I actually have a tangible reason of why I want to grow. If you don't have that and you are, for being honest with yourself, if you're happy with where you're at, the growth is never going to happen. It's just like, I'm never going to accidentally fall into a 6-pack. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of hustle. And for most people, including myself, it's not that big a priority. Like, I don't want to rearrange my life and put myself through the sacrifice of trying to get a 6-pack. So it's okay if I don't have one, basically.
Y'all, this man, I know he 26, but okay, here we go. how did you make it to 1 million? He said, you have to be willing to say no, because if you don't, that's going to prevent you from bigger deals. You need to have more self confidence. Like, what I'm doing is actually like on point. You got to increase your price. And I harp on my clients a lot about this. So this shouldn't technically be new. But I
Mhm.
tell them all the time, like, hey, you're doing full CMO work for $2,500.
Right.
Probably should be like five or more, you know? So that was a good one. Be willing to have a temporary loss to take 3 to 4 steps forward, belief in your vision, be okay with the discomfort that comes with growth. We're going to come back to that one. And being honest with yourself, like, do I really just want to do this, or am I just doing this because this is what my buddies are doing or what I hear? I think
Right.
that's good. Let's go back to the be okay with the discomfort that comes with growth. A lot of people don't talk about this one. Speak on it for us, because again, just for the audience, he knows this, he knows his numbers. I know it because I asked him separately. But again, this is not somebody who's making 250K a year. This is somebody who's in the 7 figure plus range. So as he's told you, that I went from hustling on Upwork 6 hours for $100 to now making that kind of money. But to your point, dang, do I really want to walk us through some of those conversations that you have when it's just you on the computer, nobody else. I could just go to sleep and stay in the bed. I could take off for a month. Like, walk us through, how did you work on getting okay with that? Like, man, this is hard right now, but I know it's going to pay off.
Yeah. I think one of the easiest ways that most people kind of are able to like motivate themselves during that growth is honestly just having your back against the wall. So that was the whole reason I was willing to do like shitty 5-6 hour jobs for like $100 on Upwork, was because I knew I don't really have another option. Like literally my bills and expenses were bigger than my income, and my credit card bill was growing every month. I was like, if I don't change something, I am literally just going to have a snowball of debt that gets bigger. So I didn't really have a choice at that point. I was like, I have to do something, even if it sucks, because this is my only option. I think a lot of people have these things with like family. If you have kids, if you have a spouse, if you have real responsibilities, like we were talking about before, you're going to know, like, okay, at a minimum, I need to make sure everything's covered. Like, I'm not going to be homeless. I'm not going to go hungry. Like, this is my minimum kind of quality of life standard. So, a big way that I have motivated myself, which, you know, I don't know if it's the most healthy. I don't know. There's definitely an argument you could make against it, but there is absolutely an argument around just making large financial investments, large financial commitments as a way of saying this is the first step that I am taking into a new level of myself. Um, the way I explain it is like when I was in college and I was hustling and I was broke, even the idea of like doing $30 or $40 DoorDash was expensive in my head, because I maybe had like $500 to $800 of disposable income. So I was using a pretty significant portion of my net worth on the DoorDash. Now I don't even think about DoorDashing. The frame of mind that I make a $50 to $100 decision is nothing. It's just like, oh, okay, well, if I want the DoorDash, I'm going to do it. I like to think of that when I'm thinking about someone who's maybe 1 or 2 steps ahead of me. You know, if someone has a net worth of like 50 million, $100 million, they're probably thinking about that same DoorDash decision the way that I'm maybe thinking about like a $10,000 decision, a $20,000 decision, a $50,000 decision. So there will be times where I'll have to catch myself and think, am I making a financial decision out of my current situation or out of the future situation that I want myself to be in? And I had to do that numerous times when I was getting started. I was that broke college kid. I was like, I can't order the $40 DoorDash because I actually need to pay this marketing subscription, which is $99. So, but even then, like the $99 subscription that I was paying for, that was incredibly painful. Like that was literally like a sixth or an eighth of all of the money that I had. So I had to take that seriously. If I had kept myself in that same mindset, I never would have made that investment. I would have been like, well, rationally and logically, I shouldn't use this much of my savings on this software on this thing that I'm paying for, but this is going to be the thing that helps me get to the place where I'm not even thinking about this on inconsequential amount of money. And even now I have to kind of do that. I have to imagine like, okay, I'm really stressing out $3,000, $5,000, $10,000. That's because of where I am currently. Like that might be a significant amount of money that I have just available in my checking account. But if I'm thinking about, if I truly believe in myself and I truly believe in my vision, 3, 5, 10 years down the line, am I really even going to remember making this $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 decision? I'm probably not. So a lot of it just comes down to kind of just pacing in the future scenarios. And I think that is naturally something, not naturally, I've also had to do like a lot of work on it as well, but it's something that you'll notice in a lot of very successful entrepreneurs is they're not afraid to risk the present because they believe so greatly in the future. Like there are many 9-figure net worth individuals, billionaires, who you'll read their story and it's like, I was literally down to my last dollar. I took out a loan for $50,000 and that was the thing that kind of grew the company. Do I think that's the smartest financial decision in the world sometimes? No, but it's a good example of kind of the belief they would have in themselves. And I know a lot of people who are in the 7 figures plus range, like they personally take home $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, but still they're afraid to spend like $40, $50, $100. And they're
crazy.
It is. And it's obviously, you know, there's a whole argument to be made about like a scarcity mindset and how that's like not good about money. I think the broader implication is it's just like you're limiting your potential. Like you don't even see yourself in the present. You see yourself in the past. Like you're making a decision the way that you were when you were broke 3, 5, 10 years ago. So obviously you're never going to be able to get to that future version of yourself. And you're not even enjoying the present. You're not enjoying who you are right now. So a huge thing that I think all successful people do, sometimes to their detriment, they don't even live in the present. Like they're always thinking like next year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years ahead. And a lot of people who are oftentimes, you know, kind of stuck or they're unable to make progress, they're either living in the present too much or they're living in the past, like that example that I just gave.
Y'all, young Lucas is preaching. Cause that was me. Like, I'm not even joking. My wife had to tell me that, and she was laughing at me. And this was like for like maybe 3-4 months last year.
Yep.
Because just a little bit of my story for context, just in case we've never talked about it. You're new to the podcast. Lucas don't know me, so it's new for him. Long story short, parents had me at 19, never got married. Mom got married to my stepdad. We were like, we weren't broke, but like we was regular. Went to college, first one to graduate. But because of course my mom and dad didn't finish because you know they got happy first semester. So for me, coming out of school, had a job, but of course, like you said, you have that budget. I only have so much, and then I got let go from the last job I was at, where I was a supervisor for the #1 card processing company in the world. We had baby 2, and I'm up here like for whatever reason, never struggled getting a job. All of a sudden, can't get a job. All these stupid degrees right here, can't get a job. And so I remember I started the business, and to your point, it's like, ooh, I'm going to charge $125 a month. And I really thought I was doing something, but we were struggling. So, you know, we lost the car, credit got destroyed, almost got kicked out the house, all types of stuff. And that was, you know, I started in July of 2018. We're in year 7 as of 2025. But like 2018, 2019, 2020, it's like, no, I got to watch every penny versus now. I asked my wife this question and she laughed at me so hard. I said, babe, you know, part of this workflow we have for taxes is I got to download all this stuff to give it to my assistant for her to do her part. And I'm like, babe, I think if I could just give her access to the software, because she didn't have it, then that would take me out the process, and then that helps us to be more efficient. But the problem is it's $100 per month to add her in. What do you think I should do? She looked at me and she said, Cameron, She said you make, I think at that point in time, over $40,000 a month.
Right.
And
Right.
you're really up here asking me about should you spend $100 a month,
Right. 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 Right.
knowing that you don't spend that much money
Right.
or take that much from the company
Yep.
for something that will make you more efficient, take work off your plate, and
Right.
help the business keep growing. She said, "Do
Right.
you hear yourself?" And I was like, you know, when you say it like that.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
to your point, it was very challenging because I was used to only having this finite amount versus now,
Yep.
not the and we're not saying this to brag. So if you're at the beginning of your journey, we're not trying to make fun of you. But like at the level we're at now, $100 is, I don't want to say it's not nothing, but it's $100.
Right.
Like
Right.
I can go close one deal and make that up.
Yes.
Or not even. I close one deal, it'll be like that times X amount. But
Right. Right.
it's hard to make that switch because, like you're saying, it's like I was so used to that versus like, oh crap, wait,
Mm-hmm.
I do got all this extra money. I don't really spend it for real. I don't do anything lavish, so why not? And I think that is so amazing that at a young age you were able to come to that. Because I'm 34 going on 35, and I just feel like I really learned that last year, which is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, like another thing you snuck in there. I told y'all, man, this guy's a genius. Just in case you haven't figured it out. If you notice, one thing he snuck in there, he was talking about opportunities. Like you joining this mastermind or getting this mentorship. Okay, yeah, that's 2,500. But look at how much money you have. Look at the doors it opens, the opportunities, the network, and the connections.
Right.
You never know. But if you're so stuck on, man, 2,500 a month. Oh my
Right.
God.
Right.
That was some powerful stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of it's good reminders even for me. Like a lot of it never goes away. Like I'll even catch myself nowadays being like, oh, like hiring this person, working with this agency, I don't know if it's gonna work out. It's $8,000-$10,000. And that's normal. Like that's the protection part of your brain trying to keep you safe. Like if you go through some sort of traumatic event where it's like, oh my God, I'm broke and I might be homeless, I might be losing food, like your brain's going to remember that to keep you safe. But sometimes you have to get out of that protection seeking part of your brain because no one is going to be able to stay in that side of themselves. No one's going to be able to stay inside of their comfort zone and also get to a new level or a new growth opportunity. So a lot of it is kind of just like tricking yourself into like saying, like, I know I'm safe. I know this is not like going to bankrupt me in an absolute worst case scenario. I'm still going to be fine. And now I can make the decision kind of like how I want the future version of myself to do it.
I agree. And I like how you said that you do have to trick yourself. Like I remember when she started, and this was for, mind you, again, like 2-3 months where she just kept saying, after a while, I was like, I got $100. You can go make that back, know?
Yep.
But and then to your point, last year was our best year ever. Like I think we doubled revenue from the prior. If we didn't double it, it was like right under. Right. So to your point, it's worth it, but you have to make that mental shift. Right. Now, I want to go super deep because you're going to be one of the few people that we've had on that can answer this question. Okay. It's one thing to get to 7 figures. Completely different mindset shift. You got to have fulfillment and sales dialed in. You got to know that you're not superhero. Your team is the superhero.
Yep.
But to go from 7 figures to 8 is a completely different animal. What are the differences that people don't talk about or bring up that you had to learn the hard way? Is one thing to make 7, but to get to 8, man, they didn't prep me for.
Yeah. I think, like you said, getting to 7 is having a great team, having great operations, having a great offer. It's a lot of doing. Like getting to 7 figures is absolutely work, and you have to grind, you have to sacrifice. To go from 7 figures to 8 in most business models, the ironic thing is it's usually you need to take your hands off the wheel more. You need to be doing less. Usually if you are having to do more, it probably means you're going to stay stuck at 7 figures. Because in order for any business to get to 8 figures, unless you are in like one of the most leveraged high value skill sets in the world, like you work on Wall Street or something like that, it is fundamentally impossible for one person to take home $10 million. You could be the best lawyer in the country, the best doctor, the best whatever. They all earn 7 figures, but not 8. So the only way to get to 8, if you're a lawyer, is you are not the practicing lawyer. You have to be the one that's taking the hands off the wheel, and you are ideally doing zero legal work. And then you have a team, you have the business that is set up like a conveyor belt where they do all of the legal work. That is the only way for a doctor, a lawyer, a business owner, an agency owner, anything to go from doing 7 figures to 8, which just like everything else that we've kind of talked about, it's always uncomfortable and it's always scary because in your brain, justifiably so, you're like, well, I'm amazing at this skill set. I've started from this place. I got here. I've made millions of dollars doing it. How can I trust this other person? How can I trust my team to be able to deliver like how I would, or to run my business like how I would want my business to be run when it's not their business? It's not their dollars on the line. It's not their reputation. It's a very, very difficult thing to do. And it's one of those periods where, like I was saying before, you need to be willing to take that step back. I think I don't remember where I read it, but it was in some business management book. It said, if as soon as a team member or an employee makes a mistake, if you jump in and fix it, then you've actually done them a massive disservice because they learn nothing from the mistake. They're going to keep making the mistake because it's kind of like a child or like a pet. It's like they learn, oh, if I do this, then it gets fixed for me. They're not kind of developing that muscle of, oh, this is how I do it, so I never make the mistake. Which, just like we've talked about so far, if there's always going to be the minor setback. There's going to be a time in the business where the work is not as good because you are not the one doing all of it. The sales are not as good because you're not as involved in the sales process. The marketing's maybe not as good because you don't have as much oversight on it. Most people are not willing to make that sacrifice. Most people are like, I need to jump back in or this whole thing is going down to zero. It's that little time period where every part of the company is likely going to suffer unless you've somehow pulled the world's most amazing magic trick and you've hired amazing people who just knock it out of the park. But that almost never happens. Even the most talented, hardest working, experienced individuals are going to have a learning curve with anything. So there's always going to be that period where you take your hands off the wheel with something. There's going to be a decline in performance, in efficiency, in quality, whatever. But you have to be willing to accept that for maybe like 3 to 6 months sometimes, knowing that this is going to be the thing that actually allows us to skyrocket to 8. Because again, there is logically no way that you can be involved in all of these different aspects of the business and be able to generate 10 million, 20 million, $30 million. So it's a mental battle, like a lot of things. And a lot of people, I'm honestly kind of at this point too. It's like a lot of people do kind of like just doing. They don't want to be a delegator. They like being the lawyer that still does
Why
the
do
legal.
you think that is? Because I'm going to be really honest. I am there right now because it's like I trust my team and I am delegating, but it takes like every ounce of like prayer, self-control to not just be like, I could just hurry up and do that real quick and save myself the back and forth, the feedback, the review video, the coaching you up 5 hours. I could have been done in 45 minutes.
Right. A big part of it is there is a part of you, even if it's subconscious, that likes doing it. There is a part of you that does get a sense of like satisfaction and achievement out of, I did this thing that I've done for very long. I'm great at it. And I just kicked ass at it again. If it emotionally and mentally felt like you were running a marathon, like it was physically, emotionally painful for you to do this task, you would immediately be like, someone else just take care of this. I don't even care if you do a crappy job with it. Like, this sucks for me to do. So anytime you find yourself in a cycle of like, I'm having a hard time trusting someone with this, I'm having a hard time getting this off of my plate, it's because there is a part of you that likes doing it to a degree. You might like be like, oh, I have to do this again. Maybe you don't consciously like it, but you get a feeling of like achievement and satisfaction because you're capable, you're good at it. And most people like doing things that they're good at. So that is another big reason why a lot of people struggle to go from 7 to 8 is you're trading the thing that you're good at, which is doing the task, doing the marketing, doing the legal work, whatever, for something that does not come naturally to most people, which is managing and overseeing. So everything in the business is going wrong. You're probably making less money. You have more fires that are happening that you can't physically touch. And you're in this place of discomfort where it's like, this doesn't come easily to me. This isn't natural. I kind of just want to go back to the thing that is natural and that I do like doing. And then if I did that, everything would get fixed. It's like, it's very easy to see like how we rationalize ourselves back into that place, which I'll say there's nothing wrong with. Like there's no reason that every business has to end with you become the overseer, you become the manager. Like there's hundreds, if not millions of examples of incredibly successful businesses, great reputations, incredible wealth that has been built from them that never try and do that. Like they never try and go like, we're going to have a portfolio of all these people and all of these divisions and we're going to service thousands of people. It's like, that's not a requirement. But the thing that I think I've had to be honest with myself, I think everyone has to be honest with myself, is genuinely asking like, this thing that I keep coming back to, this thing that I can't delegate, this thing that I have a hard time trusting people with, is this truly the kind of work that I want to do for 3, 5, 10 years? And is it something that I just kind of gravitate towards because it's what I know and it's what I'm naturally good at? Or is it something that like I genuinely like doing and I really want to practice this? Like for me, I love copywriting. I love writing. I think it's an amazing skill set. I'd be honest with myself, like I'm probably never going to fully delegate copywriting. Like I genuinely enjoy it. I could absolutely make the argument, like if I did fully delegate it, maybe the business grows, maybe it makes more money. I'm not going to do that. Like I have no real interest in running a business like that. But for me, a lot of like the media buying and advertising, like going in the Facebook ads manager and everything, I don't really feel the need to do that. I don't get a lot out of it. So that's been a pretty easy thing for me to get off of my plate. So I think a lot of it is kind of just really, it's a lot of self-awareness and a lot of just like catching yourself and seeing like, okay, this thing that I'm going back into, is this really the kind of work and the kind of business that I want to be in? Because if you don't fix it, it is just going to continue. You're going to keep doing it for the next 3, 5, 10 years, however long you're in business. And there's nothing wrong with that if you're consciously making the decision rather than kind of just letting your mindset and letting your comfort zone just kind of force you back into the things that you've known.
Y'all, I wasn't even prepared for the genius. But this man, he's spitting. He's spitting out real crack cocaine right now. Cause I can, again, I am there. He's telling the truth. And it's very hard, but just like he said, and I've heard other coaches or high level performing business owners say, you have to make the choice that yes, it may only get 80% done, but I have to be okay with that. And yes, that may mean we have a little bit more churn, which that's a whole different convo. All of those things come into play. So I feel like we need a part 2.
I'd love to.
I gotta let you go, but doggone it. Okay, let's wrap it up. We'll just have a part 2 at a later time. Tell the people if they're like, man, this guy is killing it. He knows what he's talking about. I can imagine if he's this wise with the information and have done this much in such a short amount of time, the work that he can do for me. Tell them, how do they reach you? What's the website, the funnel? Tell them the name and the company name, all that again.
Mm-hmm. So my website's just lucasleetyson.com, one word, no hyphen. I have free posts, free information there where people can kind of learn about this stuff. You can get on my email list there and I personally write all the emails. You can reply back to me. I as well, probably the social media I'm most active on is just Facebook and Instagram. So if you send me a DM on either of my profiles there with a blue check, I usually check it and answer. But yeah, I love teaching. I love just sharing a lot of stuff for free. And most of the stuff that we charge money for is like super cheap, like $30-$40. So we have a lot of different resources that people can kind of get started with, before you decide to want to work with us. So those would be the easiest ways to just get connected.
Okay, y'all. I got to hit all this stuff all over again because here we go. This was good. All right. Started Facebook ads in college to make money and grew to an 8-figure agency. Have a skill set that's not dependent on your time, but on the results. Focus on one business model, not all of the shiny objects. Stop switching just because it's a new flavor or a new AI tool. Know your thing, stick to it. I love this. How did you make it to the $1 million level? You have to be willing to say no because that'll prevent you from the bigger deals, more self-confidence, increased pricing. Be willing to have a temporary loss to take 3 or 4 steps forward. Belief in your vision. Be okay with the discomfort that comes from growth. Be honest with yourself. Don't be afraid to risk a little bit in the present so that you get that big quantum jump in the future. Difference between 7 and 8 figures, 7-figure people. You got a great offer, great time, great ops. You're grinding, but when you go to that 8-figure mark, you have to take your hands off the wheel and do less. You have to accept the hard lessons in order to facilitate that growth to the next level. Man, we appreciate you for this episode. This was good, y'all. If you got something from it, make sure you like, comment on it, share it with a buddy that's maybe in that same transition from 7 to 8 figures or 6 to 7. Let them hear this. If you like, man, I need him to do my ads because he sounds like he know what he's doing. He can give me some paid traffic. Reach out to him. He already told you how to do it. He told you where to find himself. Reach out to him. That's why we bring people here, not only just to share their story, but to also give back. So with that being said, thank you again, man, for being on here. Guys, these are the type of quality of people that we're trying to bring to you in season 3. So with all that being said, until the next time, take care of yourselves. Be safe. Peace out.
Take care.